Okay, this video leads on from the video that shows you how to set up a simple options menu using text. It doesn't matter what sort of menus you've got here, this video is going to show you how to control any sort of menu system where you've got submenus. So in this example we've got a main menu with the difficulty, lives, volume and finished on it, and then we've got submenus, one that says easy, normal, hard, one that's got number of lives 1, 3, 5, 7, and one that's got a volume, and we'll come to that. It's a volume slider and we'll come to that later. Okay, so let's have a look at how we're going to do that. Right, if we're going to control it, we need to go to the input code. So open your input.cs and locate your check input subroutine. Now we need to detect keys for the options mode. Now that's when the game is in options state. So if I look back at my start options code, I should have changed the game state, and I did. I changed it to options. Okay, so back in my input code I need to make sure that under my switch, where I've already got case title, I have a case for if we are in options state, and I put break at the end of it. Okay, so any key presses when we're in options will be picked up here. Right, I'm going to set up basic up and down keys for controlling the main menu. So I'm going to say key pressed keys dot up, and if I get an up key I'm going to say graphics dot mn options main previous. So I'm going to say go to the previous item. I'm going to set up a similar key, input manager dot key pressed keys dot down, and that's going to do next. So I'm going to say graphics dot mn options main dot next. Now that's the exact same code if you followed the video for doing the start menu. Okay, so let's just quickly give that a run, make sure it works. Go to options, and I can now go up and down. I can't, I'm pressing down, I can't go beyond finish, and I can't go beyond difficulty. Remember, that's because when I set the menu up, if we just quickly look at that, it's right down at the bottom. When I set the menu up, I said wrap no. That stops it cycling round. Okay, right, let's go back to the input code. Now, so when I go up and down, I'm going to change the main menu. But what I want to do is when I've got difficulty highlighted and I do left and right, I want to go up and down the difficulty menu. But when I'm on the lives menu and I press left and right, I need to go up and down the lives menu. So it's not as simple as just always doing one thing like we've got here. So what we've got to do is we've got to do some testing. Okay, and the way we're going to do this is we're going to create two separate subroutines. One to check what's happening when we press left, and one for when we press right. So let's just do the key check first. So if input manager dot key pressed keys dot left, so we'll do the left key one first. What we want to do is examine the main menu. So if we're on the difficulty, we're going to mess back with and do previous on the difficulty menu, and the same for lives and the same for volume. Okay, so we're going to put this in a subroutine. So let's do check left options menu. Okay, I'm going to call it that. So it doesn't exist, so it moans at me, so I right click and say generate method stop. Okay, I don't know where it's created that, but if I right click on it now, I can say go to definition, so it takes me there. I'll delete the line that's there. Right, we need to first check which menu in the main menu is selected, which option. So I'm going to use a switch for that, and I'm going to say graphics mn options dot selected name. Okay, now the names come from the definition of your menu. So if I go back to my options main menu, here it is. On the line when I said add item, these are the names I gave to the 4 menu values. So the difficulty display was called diff, lives display was called lives, the volume menu was called vol, and the finished one was called finish. It's those bits of text that I want. So if this doesn't work, check that the text is right. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my input and I'm going to say, right, case diff colon, and I'm then going to say mn diff, so it's the graphics dot mn diff dot previous. Okay, and then I'm going to put break. Now I've written it all in one line just to keep it nice and clean. There was nothing to stop me doing it like this, which is how Visual Studio will try and write it for you, but I like it like that when I'm doing these sort of things. So I'm now going to say case lives, and I just do it for each one of my menu items. So if you've got more options, then you'll have more cases. Case vol, let me say graphics dot mn vol dot previous. Okay, now if I'm on finish, which is my go back to title screen, what I actually want to do is run the title switcher. So if I do left and right when I'm on finish, I'm just going to assume that the people will finish with what they're doing. So I'm just going to run title switcher and then do break. Okay, I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the right key. So let's go back up. See, I'm in my case for options. Make sure it's in the right place, otherwise it won't work. So if input manager key pressed keys dot right keys dot right, then we're going to do check right. Let's keep the naming the same. Options menu. Oh, let's get rid of that capital P. Okay, so I'm going to create another subroutine with the same format of name. So I'm going to say right click, generate method stub. I'm going to go there. Okay, it's created it just above my the one I've just done, the left key, and the code is going to be exactly the same except for previous. I'm going to put next, so I'm actually going to copy the code. Okay, so I'm copying it. So I'm saying, is the name diff, lives, vol, or finish? If it's either any of those, do the action. So I'm just going to change all the previouses to next. Okay, so let's just recap what we've got. So we wanted to check some keys in when the game was in options state. So we created or made sure there was a game state switch, okay, with a case for options, just like we've got a case further down for title. Okay, set up an up and down check for the main menu, and then for the left and right keys we run a subroutine, and each of those subroutines checks to see what the current menu selected on the main menu is. Is it diff, lives, vol, finish? Okay, and then we do next or previous. So let's run that and see what it does. Go to the options. So I'm on. I can still go up and down. Let's see if the difficulty is working. Okay, not cycling because I set those to wrap no as well. So it goes easy, normal, hard, easy, normal, hard. Okay, move up and down. Try lives. Yep, that works. And again, that was wrap no, so I can't go any further than 7 or 1. And volume. Volume is really slow. I'm having to press it 100 times to get up to the end. That's not very good. I need to do something about that. Okay, so we need to do something different to handle the slider, because there's lots of options. It's got to be more than key pressed. So let's have a look at what we can do for that. Right, it's because we're doing key pressed. Okay, so let's do a separate check and say if input manager dot key down, so left key, and then we'll do graphics dot mmbol dot previous, and we'll do the same for the right key if that's down. So I'm going to put a comment here, check for volume slider, and do it again. So input manager dot key down, so that's if the key's being held down. Keys dot right, and do the same. So graphics, oh dear, graphics dot mmbol dot next. Okay, so let's run that and see if that works how we intended. Let's see. Go to options, go to volume, moves up and down. Okay, there's a white bit of text flashing, which is an artifact. So I'll just have a look at that, because that looks a bit naff. Okay, but that's obviously there's a slight bug with the display code for the menu, but it doesn't stop how it's working. So that's the slider. Okay, and it takes us about a second, because that's how quick the updates are working, for us to go up and down on that. But if the game was running faster, and I'll just make a little change, I'll change this to -1. Don't do this, I'm just going to show you this. This lets the game run as fast as it can. Okay, so I'm running now. Let's go on to my options screen. Oh no, it won't. Let's not link it. Let's say false. Right, this will let the game run as fast as it can. Don't you do this. I just want to demonstrate an issue with our checking for the keys. Right, if you look at the FPS, it's running at 900 and odd frames a second. So when I go down to the volume, I actually can't easily select a single number because it's moving too fast. Okay, whenever we want to do this sort of key down checking, we need to put some sort of timer in place to trap it. Okay, there is a video that shows you how to do this, but I'm going to show you in this video. The other thing we've got is if I go up and down, and I'm changing the lines menu, but I'm changing the volume at the same time, so I need to stop that as well. So let's stop that happening first, and let's have a look at why our code's doing that. So go to input. Right, here's the slider checks. We've said if the key's held down, always move the previous menu, but we only want to do that really when the main menu is on volume. So we've actually got to put two tests. So if the key's held down and the main menu, the selected name equals vol, then we'll do that. Okay, so I'm going to copy that because it's the exact same test that I need for the right key in there. But and percent means and, so we're saying this has to be true and this has to be true for us to carry out this previous. So let's just run that and just double check that that works. And go into the options. So I'm on difficulty and it's not moving the volume now. Go on to volume, it's moving the volume. Okay. Right. The other thing is the speed, so we've got to slow this down. Now, what we need to do is create a timer, and we can create a timer that we check to make sure that the time has elapsed. So we might say for this timer 1/10 of a second. So as we're holding the key down, we only want to respond every 1/10 of a second. Okay. Now we create this timer when we set up the options screen. So let's go to the top of my options code where I've got start options. So here's where I show my menus. Select my difficulty menu. So let's create a timer. So I'm going to say to the event manager, add a timer, and I'm going to say new event, put me interval, so I'm going to put 0.1f, so every 1/10 of a second this timer is going to be active, and I'm going to call this volume slider. Okay, that closes the event, that closes the add timer. So that creates a timer which I can just check to see if it's elapsed, called volume slider. So I'm going to copy that text, so don't lose it, because I'm going to need that in a second. Right, back to the input code. Right, so I've got a check for the left key down, but we also want to make sure that the option on the main menu is volume, but we also want to put this key check in on the timer. So I'm going to say and I've done it on the next line. Okay, so let's have a look what I just did there. Don't want to lose you. So I've got this wants to be true, and this wants to be true, and we want the timer to be true. Now this is going to go over several lines, so what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to break it after the and. Okay, and then I'm going to add another and make a new line. And then I'm going to put my check. So I'm going to say to the event manager, elapsed, and then the name I've got, volume slider. So has volume slider elapsed? If it has elapsed, it'll allow this code to run and do my previous, and it'll reset the timer so I can check again. Okay, right, let's do the same for the right key. So after the ampersands, press enter. After the check to see if it's volume, do and press enter to make a new line, and then put the event manager elapsed code again. So volume slider. Got to get that name right, otherwise it won't work. And make sure you've got a matching bracket. It'll try and help you. You might not be able to see on this video, but when you're on the right hand side of a right bracket, it'll highlight the matching one. You can see it highlights it in grey. So if I do it on that one, it highlights it in grey. If you do it on that one, it highlights it there in grey. Okay, so we're actually making sure that we only do previous on the volume menu if a key's down and we're on the main menu volume and this little timer's elapsed. Right, let's see if it works. There's loads of different ways of doing sliders, but this is just one of them. So I'll go to our options menu, easy normal hard works, go on to live, that works, go on to volume, and it's letting me run through them 10 a second. Well, it's not very fast, so I'm going to speed that up a little bit. And all I need to do is change the timer. So I'll go back to my options, start options thing, and change that. Let's make it a bit faster. Let's put 0.02. That's 50 times a second that I can respond to my key with that. Okay, so go on to the, when it runs, go on to the options, go on to volume. That's a little bit nicer, a little bit more controllable. Still might find it's a bit too fast. Okay, so you might need to fiddle with it, but that'll do for me for this demonstration. So let's just check finish work. So I'm going to press right. It goes back. Go on to my options again. The menus stay what they were on, so I'm going to put it on hard. Set the volume to 70 odd. Do finished. Go back to options. It's important that the menus do stay where they are and we don't reset them, because we use that information when we come to save and load. Okay, and that's the end of that vid.